I'd like to yield the rest of my time to a much more eloquent Marlon.
Thank you so much. I won't comment on your eloquence, but we are so happy that you're here.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, thank you
Marlon.
for yielding your time. I don't think I've ever had time yielded to me, so I take it very nicely. So thank you, everyone, for having this meeting here today, and also just thank you to all the hard work. I went through the document and everything, and I know there was a lot of hard work being put towards that. So I just want to say a sincere thank you for putting a lot of our concerns, I think, that were collected over the Squares and Streets thing into that, and I actually saw that. My area of expertise is mostly around the history of Boston infrastructure and the historic ties to redlining and the Boston Bank Urban Renewal Group area. And so just a little pushback on something that was said earlier about building more housing, if you need to build more housing in order to stop displacement. I think that comment is probably more relevant in a community that hasn't been disinvested from. Once you have a community that's been disinvested from, and another thing I'm going to say is that, let me just say that the words disinvestment is not really what happened. A community was identified and infrastructure was cut off to that community. So that's what we're dealing with now. And your displacement map, when I saw it, I was like, I can't believe they gave me this, because it literally there's almost no difference in the 1938 map to now. You can see exactly where the places are. Any difference is just that they've been gentrified since that time. So I wanted to point out that now I can see the city going along the old trolley lines and trying to reinvest in those communities. But these areas are no longer the same as they were back then. These areas are historically disinvested. So they're hypersensitive to any small investment you put into the area. Because like let's say Franklin Park, it's not supposed, that's my first 2 minutes.
You can keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, so Franklin Park, right, is historically a landmark. It has always been high. For it to be low around that area is because of the removal of the trolleys and everything around this area. So we just have to be very careful when you're putting anything into that area, even the current connection, the Mattapan action plan down Blue Hill Ave, that's an issue. You're going to just basically, at least if you don't connect it back to Dudley, it needs to be connected back to Dudley. Now, the squares and streets, I've looked at all the maps, all the different areas. Literally, the areas identified by the squares and streets is exactly the highest areas that, by the map, risk for displacement. I don't know how that's going to work, because literally the most vulnerable people live in those communities, and that's the area that's going to be redeveloped. Rosendale Square is going to be there. They've put out the small action plan, up to 12 floors in one area, right by the parking lot. That's going to, if you're a small community that needs money, you cannot. That's going to just basically the economic displacement. And then also I want to talk a little bit about, you're talking about building housing. That housing is for, are we designing the very communities that I come from out of the process? My communities need 4 or 5 bedroom houses. They don't need 2, 3 bedrooms, 1 in the studio. So once you're doing that, you're literally designing us out before we get there. And then finally, the success metrics. I'm very, somehow I make this joke, no offense, but I say BPDA, they always forget the metrics when it's time to deliver, engineers that don't like numbers. But what I'm trying to say is that how many people are being displaced? How many people will be saved from displacement due to this plan? Those are the kind of numbers that are going to make us know whether we're just running in place or we're just, or we're doing it, just randomly. So I think that's all the time I have, but I really appreciate all the effort everybody's put in, and we're all partners, and we want all Bostonians, even the ones that are leaving, we want right to return, because once a Bostonian, always Bostonian. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marlon. You've given us a lot to think about, even through just sort of the removing of a case-by-case situation with each individual project. like, does that help create investment or lack of investment if something is not case by case, and then there's sort of not that conversation at the community level. But very, very helpful. And thank you all for being here. I really appreciate